Cup TV.
Welcome to Diaspora Fusion with me, Rachel Anyango, and my guest tonight is a communications consultant who has lived abroad for more than 17 years. His name is Evans Wafula. He has stayed in mostly Europe, right?
Yeah.
For more than 17 years. And tonight we are discussing what it's like to migrate to Europe. So those are some of the things that we are going to be talking about. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, my first question for you. Life abroad is not as green as people perceive it to be. Do you agree or disagree?
Definitely I agree. I mean, the perception that is about greener pastures, that one is totally a misconception, because a lot of people I know, they have the quest to go abroad thinking that, oh, it's so green, it's so beautiful. It's not rosy. And I think probably as you transition yourself into the connecting with the society, probably is when you realize it's just to answer your question, it's not green, it's not rosy.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to when you first left the country and went to Europe. Take us back and just tell us, like, how was that experience for you?
I think like most of us, and I guess also yourself, is that when you go through your education and you have a dream and aspiration, probably you think maybe I'll get a job and start working, or maybe if I get an opportunity, I'll be able to go out of the country and to, of course, try to enhance yourself in terms of education. Probably those are some of the options I had at first. I thought maybe I would go out, then get my education, then come back. But I did not go out because I was going to look for education. To be very honest with you, is that I just had an opportunity to be not to be out of the country by default. And at first I thought that it's an experience just that will take me maybe a week, a month, or two weeks. Then I'll get myself back home. But that then, of course, evolved into being like a part of my own self-realization, that probably I need to be out just to be able to put myself together and be able to just try to improve myself. One of the things that is important that I would like to mention is that when I went out there, first of all, I realized, it's really not easy, because one, you don't have friends. Two, important where to stay. You just look like, okay, where will I stay? You know, people think that you're going to stay in a very nice environment, but you have to start from almost the scratch. So you get out there, then you realize that life is about actually making ends meet, putting yourself together, trying to actually look at what opportunities are there, and important is trying to get connections. And getting connections means that you need to know people around, and then you also to integrate in the community. So it's basically about connections and community. And that's one of the things that I really was looking forward when I went out there, that I have to get a base, which is going to be part of the connections I have, but also belong in the community. And important to belong in the community, then it means you need to be like them, act like them, and feel like you're part of them. Yeah.
So now I want you to tell me, how was it like for you to be like them, act like them, for you just to integrate? How was that experience like for you?
Let me just share with you how my journey began. You know, having come from a Kenyan education system and a Kenyan setup, it's easy to go. When you talk about Europe, probably everybody thinks it's UK. But imagine going to a country where they don't speak English. That is going to Finland, for example. That's where I first went. I went to Finland. There I found there was no English, there is no Swahili, there's Swedish, Finnish, and Russian. So to be like them, to act like them, and to feel you're part of them, then it means you need to just get the confidence to learn the language. So one of the biggest challenge for me was like, oh my God, look, Finnish is there's this saying that Finnish is the most difficult language in the world, only spoken in heaven.
Okay.
So because what they say is that it's a language that you can never understand. It's completely a contradiction of what people perceive as proper communication.
Okay.
So I had to get my way to learn and understand the language. And of course, a bit of Swedish, not so much good of Russian. And that then gave me the community. Then it was like my defense, so that if somebody would meet me, that person with a different skin or different color, but speaks good Finnish, I felt so like I am actually part of these people, because I could understand, I could speak, I can write in Finnish.
Yes.
And then I just felt like it's so, I mean, I just integrated so easily. I felt like it's more of even being in Kenya and not being able to speak a different language, not being able to speak a certain ethnic language, but being able to speak Finnish. That was was actually like a landmark for me.
So did you know someone when you were going there to Finland?
Yeah, I knew someone. I knew someone, but what I'll tell you is that, to be very honest, nobody should deceive you. That even if you know someone, someone will always just tell you, okay, welcome. But then everything else is for you yourself to get yourself where you want to be. And I can tell you that I didn't go to Europe because there's a relative who invited me or what. And I think I just went to Europe because, first of all, it was in pursuit of my own dreams and aspirations, that I really wanted to do something different from what has always been the norm. Like everybody goes to the US, everybody goes to the UK, Dubai and everywhere. But going to Eastern Europe, a lot of people, like, how many Kenyans would you imagine would want to go to a place that is cold the entire year?
Yeah.
And it's dark almost the entire year.
Wow.
Because the weather is one of the biggest challenge
Yeah.
when you try to move into a country like, for example, Finland and the countries that are perceived to be the Northern Star.
Yeah.
That is, they are far, far, far away from civilization. You have a weather that is so harsh. You have a language that is so unfriendly, and you have a closed society. And this is, I mean, one of the biggest challenges was that small countries that emerged from from Russia, of course, after the fall of the wall, I mean, of the fall of Russia, you'll find that these are countries that are closed. They are countries that the population is so small, and the language is so restricted. It's only Finnish, but thanks to the entire European Union concept, that these are countries. I went to Finland when now Finland was among the countries, or was actually joining the European Union. So which means it was open to the European Union. So if it means that UK, let's say, of course, Holland or the so-called Netherlands, all these countries were part of the European Union. So however small they were, they still had significance. And therefore, the condition was that the language had to change. So everybody within those languages would be able to learn and speak English. And that was an advantage now for me later on, after speaking Finnish, learning Finnish, then realizing that, okay, fine, English is now a prerequisite in whether in the university, whether it's at workplace, and also the young people, the young population started now embracing and learning English. And that was actually also something that was a very interesting transition in terms of the society opening.
Okay, so when you got there, were there many Kenyans, few? Were there people that at least you could say, tukae chini tupige story, you know?
I went to Finland when at least there was quite a number of Kenyans. I'm not among the first people.
Okay.
Remember, the first people to go to Finland are Somalis, because there's a story about the Russian plane that brought the first group of refugees into, or immigrants into Finland.
Yeah.
But many Finlands had gone to, but not in every part of Finland. There are parts in Finland where if you go as an African, everybody will want to look at you and try, even kids would want to touch your skin just to realize that, are you real?
Yes.
So those are some of the things that would...
So that is still happening?
It still happens in some parts. You know, there are parts that they are not completely... open.
Yes.
When I say closed society, it means these are societies or these are communities that have kept to themselves. If you hear, for example, Finland, there are the people called the Samo people. These are people who live up north of Finland, Lapland, and they are very close. So, because who would imagine to go to live in a place that it's dark, it's cold, the language is bad. Not bad, the language is difficult or challenging. So at the end of the day, you realize this close society, if you go in as a tourist or somebody new, they'll always want to, like, okay, what has brought you here.
Yeah.
They would not even imagine that you would have an interest
Yeah,
in their
in
country
going to
or
their
in
country.
doing something in their country. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There's a comment I want to read from someone on this conversation. Someone who says, I see Kenyans complaining about this country, and I tell them, fikeni maju and be humble. You will come back and see what a beautiful country we have despite all its small challenges hapa na pale. So at least in Kenya, for this person, in Kenya, we have the sun 24/7. We don't have winter. Everything grows easily on our soil. Healthy organic food that is cheap and abundant. Social ties are strong. We have world-class infrastructure being built rapidly and great environment for kids to grow up in. The list is endless. So let's start with you even having to adapt to the weather. I mean, I can see someone here also say the same thing. There's winter throughout. It's winter throughout most times. How did you adapt to it?
Okay, for me, it didn't take me so long to adapt because I was looking forward to that as a challenge, to challenge myself. So I was looking at it like, for example, you go somewhere and you're like, hey, it's snowing in Limuru. Then you go there the following day, it's not there. But then I really wanted to challenge myself and just have the experience and feel like, okay, this is what it means to be in a different weather as opposed to be in the whole weather back home. So for me, I took it very positive, and I looked at it like, wow, it is a good experience to be able to be out there and see the world in a different way. Then appreciate the planet, appreciate the universe, appreciate the way everything is been made, you know. So I looked at it like departing and having a different experience about my weather was something that also, although it was also part of my culture shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really part of my culture shock. Very simple things like the train is on time, the bus is on time.
Yes.
That to me was a culture shock.
Yeah.
Having used to waiting for a matatu that comes after 10 minutes or getting late.
Yeah.
So I started adapting the fact that I'll be able now even to discipline myself. And that has even helped me till now that I'm a very good timekeeper.
He
you saw,
is.
I
He
got
is a good
here at
timekeeper.
the exactly the same time you asked
For
me
sure,
to.
thank you.
So I don't use, I really learned that, you know what, that kind of environmental adaptation for me was actually one of the challenges that I looked for, and I was like, oh, okay, my God. Remember, my training and my experience, I'm a journalist.
Yeah.
And I have worked abroad. And it gave me an opportunity to move from one place to another place. I've been to Middle East.
Yeah.
Where they snowed, and I was like, you mean it can snow here?
Yeah.
I've been to places where you don't see the sun. You see short nights, long nights, and even where when it freezes, the lake is frozen. You walk on the lake, then you start asking yourself, oh, you mean you can walk on the lake?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, so what happened in our Bible stories? They will say, oh, you mean Jesus walked on the lake during winter? But like, no. But you can literally walk, people can skate on top of the frozen lake.
Yeah.
And this was something to me, it was just complete culture shock.
Okay, maybe if I can ask, so even when you left the country and you went abroad, in all this while when you were working there, was it the same thing that you had studied, that you were practicing, or was it a different field?
For me, lucky enough, that was the case. Because most people, and we've seen even young Africans, many immigrants coming into Europe, and you realize that you have of course you are line of what you are pursuing, but you have to make ends meet. So you'll find somebody is coming to university to study to be a journalist, but there's no opportunity for you to be a doctor until you finish your degree.
Yeah.
You cannot be a journalist until you completely finish your education. And also, even if you finish, it's not a guarantee. But there are other jobs people would take up to do that doesn't need qualification. It's about, is the opportunity for you. And that's why I've even seen people who have left Kenya with master's degree, but end up cleaning the trade. Somebody has left here is going to sell in a shop.
Yes.
You know, some work in the restaurants, but those are opportunities that are also very limited. I think nobody should lie to you that it's obvious or automatic. I mean, even guys who you would meet who are on food stamps, and they're from Kenya.
So when you say food stamps, what does that mean?
I mean, you see, and that's what I say. The social welfare system in Europe is different. It's in the sense it's tailored in a manner that will always rescue you. You know, it will always. I think if you don't have a meal, for example, there's a place you will go. Like, for example, I know people, most people like West Africans, and most people, of course, I think even from Asia who don't have food, they would go to the church aid centers and get vouchers to go and buy food or to collect food from supermarket. These are things that are in some kind of social democratic systems where you make sure that people are not able to sleep hungry. And they are the Roma people, for example, in Europe. And I think many people have gone to Europe. I know the story about the Roma. They are homeless people who are in Europe.
Yes.
And who also are entitled to food stamps. They're entitled to... There's even beggars in Europe. So I think some of the things I saw, something experienced, are not totally so different from what we experience here. You'll also find a beggar in the street. You'll find a comedian on the street. You'll find a homeless person in the street. And you'll find also a citizen who is not able to fend for himself. I think, truth be told, there are Europeans who are poor, that they cannot pay their rent. They cannot buy their food, and they cannot take care of themselves. So the system takes care of
all of them.
Of themselves. I mean, the system takes care of them. So that's actually a reverse opposite of what here we are calling somebody's hustling. That you have to struggle, get everything that you want. There, if you feel that you can't...
You go by the road and beg.
Yeah. So people, not even begging here, for example, you'll find that people who are living below poverty is a bit high. But you see, for them is that if you don't have food, you'll go somewhere and get that food. So I've seen rich Europeans, poor Europeans, and I've seen those even who are not, who will live better than them. Africans, even some Africans live better than them. That's actually some of the contradictions that I've actually experienced.
That's very interesting to know.
But the most important thing that maybe from your question, you talked about how multiculturalism also affected me. I think mixed marriages, or mixed relationships, whether you have a boyfriend, whether you're getting into a marriage, that's one of the areas that is also a big challenge. Because at the end of the day, I think it's honest to say is that you will be judged. Society is very unfair, and society judges us in different ways. I think that you will never be them, and that's the mentality. So there's the issue of race and multiculturalism plays out quite obviously. I think you can, and I've seen many young people from Africa in relationships with people from other countries, or for example from Europe, for example. But society is completely different when it comes to multiculturalism. Some society don't embrace multiculturalism. So multiculturalism meaning that if, for example, you have a relationship and you have kids out of that relationship, it's difficult for them to beat that line between are they black, are they white. And so society would bundle them to be either black or they'll be perceived to be either white. And also when you're in a relationship, there's always that mentality of you are still an African, whether you're going out. And this is one of the things I always like speaking to young people, that there's always that bias when it comes to race. Love is unique, it's beautiful, it's interesting, but when it comes to race, sometimes it can compromise even relationships, and it can compromise love, but people don't like speaking about it. But you see, people have traveled out there for many reasons. There are those who have gone because they are married. There are those who have gone because they want to get education. And that's one of the things that we need to be very honest when we speak about these things, about traveling abroad. Don't go out, I would say, don't go out because you're just going out because someone has married you. Because the society and multiculturalism is something that can compromise even your marriage. First of all, have a base, be able to support yourself before you say, I have found somebody who loves me. He's a British, he's a Dutch, he's a French, he's a German. At the end of the day, when you go to that country, you're still an African. And that is how society will perceive you. And when people struggle even to raise kids in that context, it becomes big challenge. And I think when you speak to many of my friends who are both white and black, they say, oh, not every society has embraced multiculturalism. I will love you because you're maybe a nice girl, beautiful girl, I'm white, but does the society where I want to take you accepts you? That's what some of the challenges.
Now, racism has always been a big issue in Europe, always. Is that something that you came across during your stay when you were there?
Obvious, definitely. I did. I think I have episodes that were a bit embarrassing, but I also have episodes that were a bit funny and challenging. But at the end of the day is that it's about the perception. I mean, and as I said in the beginning of the show, is that once you adapt language, language you use it as a weapon to guard yourself against any racist. Because racists will always want to feel or to take advantage that you are not part of that society and you do not understand that society. And that's one of the things I think many people take interest of learning a language, whether you're going to France, learn a bit of French. Whether you're going to German, learn a bit of German. Whether you're going to Finland, learn a bit of Finland. Because the moment you're able to speak, even someone who has some kind of racist attitude towards you, first of all is like, come on, for you to know their language, you must be very smart. So, I mean, people use language to break the barriers. And that when you use language to break the barriers, then racism can actually cannot be something that you can be bothered about.
So, you know what, let's take a short break. When we come back, Evans is going to tell us why he thinks Africans who are trying to go to Europe should be stopped. Do not go anywhere.
You're watching Look Up TV.
Kibera slum. It's different and the biggest of its kind in Africa. With people drawn from different backgrounds, all united in their quest to beat the odds and change their lives. Amid a grinding poverty and neglect, theirs is a life driven by hope for survival, engineered by 3 Ps: patience, passion, and perseverance. Join us on Look Up TV as we shine a light on Kibera's untold stories.
Turn your 50 bob into $1 million shilling investment. Changamka and Shindagari Chap Chap with Hometel. There's millions in shillings worth of prizes to be won. Send your 50 bob to paybill number 4040153 and get a chance to win 20,000 shillings daily. And each week, one person gets a chance to walk away with a Mazda Demio and another a Beth Mobility motorbike. Remember, the more times you try, you could be the winner of a fantastic Toyota Prado. Do not be left out. Send 50 shillings to paybill number 4040153, account name Look Up TV, and get yourself a Hometel lucky number. Changamka and Shindagari Chap Chap with Hometel promotion. For more information, visit www.shindagari.co.ke. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Diaspora Fusion with me, Rachel Anyango, and as I'd mentioned earlier, my guest tonight is a communications consultant who has lived abroad for more than 17 years, specifically Europe and many other countries as well. And tonight that forms the basis of our discussion, migrating to Europe. And Evans, before we had started the show, as we were talking, you said Africans who are trying to migrate to Europe should be stopped. I'd like you to tell us why.
Actually, I've been one of the proponents of anti-immigration.
Yes.
In that context of Africans not going to Europe.
Yes.
I think not because I've lived there for many years and I don't want to see Africans coming, because I've never understood the reason why people should die to go to Europe.
Yes.
And you see in statistics, if you look at the statistics, for example, even towards the end of last year, a lot of young Africans have died from Libya, from West Africa, trying to cross into Europe in pursuit of greener pastures, or let's say in pursuit of good life. But most of these people saying they're going for greener pastures, some of them are actually below any academic levels, completely people who cannot even be able to comprehend why they're going there. So I think African governments, and that's my only strong position I've always taken, is that African governments should try to prevent young Africans from entering Europe in that manner.
Okay.
So that we don't have many Africans dying, because this is self-imposed slavery. You know, because you want to go to Europe without any level of education. You want to go and do what? You want to be a laborer, you want to be what? You want to be, you know. So that's one thing I've always been like, no, let's not allow young Africans to enter Europe. And the European countries also on the other side should find better way of dealing with African governments in terms of trying to prevent these young Africans entering Europe from the point of departure. Not only from the point of entry, but the point of departure. One of the things is that because not what is perceived of Europe, as you said in the beginning, is green. A lot of young Africans are in jails in Europe. A lot of young Africans, they're in jails in Europe. A lot of them have committed a lot of crime. And this is a fact. So I think one of the things is that we need to find a way in which that we can be able to balance that migration so that it becomes migration that is actually properly structured and not only migration for survival. This is actually young Africans moving for survival. I'll tell you a story. There was a story of somebody who had put a child in a suitcase to cross the child to Europe. I mean, these are stories that happen.
How
in a
is this
suitcase.
child?
And then I'm saying these are facts, these are things that happen. There are people who you find them in the plane. He's not actually is where the luggage is being put. A lot of them. And you remember the story of the Kenyan who was the story. You know the story of the Kenyan who the plane that was coming from London. I mean, was going to London. These are some of the stories that we need to actually look at it when it comes to immigration. I think once the immigration policies are more streamlined, and then they are also like to be people friendly in terms of the number of people who are going to Europe, especially, becomes skilled or professionals. But if you look at Europe and the US, for example, is that we find US there's the issue of the green card. But even those who have traveled with green card, they talk to most of them. It's not easy. It's not a license to a better life. And nobody should ever also tell you that going to Europe is a license to a better life. But I think it's all about opportunities. And you see, we are lucky. People are lucky in different. We are not. I mean, we have all different different opportunities in our lives. I went to Europe not through a difficult time, or maybe not even when I didn't use a lot of effort to go to Europe. But those people even now are struggling. They are thinking. Somebody is just telling his friends, if I just go to Europe, I will not come back. That mentality that I will not come back.
I have a lot of friends who tell me that too.
So you see, those who say I will not come back, I will tell you, if you call them after 1 month, they want to come back. They really want to come back. So first, their expectations is not what they were talking about, or what they have been told. When they reach there, maybe it's like, she thinks, oh, you know, there's this thing about I will be married to a white man. That's completely out, you know. And you see, you will not. I think Kenya, home sweet home. I think if you are here, if you are home, if you're in Africa, if you're in Kenya, for example, and you're able to make your ends meet, you're able to do your things in a better way, you're able to have the opportunities. And of course, we've always said that the opportunities are able to be created for young people. I will tell you without shame that there will be no person who will want to go to Europe. I think you've seen people even who have come from Europe here. Some of them are on welfare. But when they are here, they look like they are doing so well. One, they are not paying taxes. Two, they are on government money. And then they create an impression that where they're coming from is so beautiful that you need to go there. I'll tell you, majority of people you see, apart from the expats, those who have come because they're expatriates in different fields, there are most of them who are here, you are better off than them. The fact is that we don't like speaking out about it. There are people from Europe who are completely on, it's not even bursary, it's welfare. They're given money to go to Africa. And there's those regulations that if you sponsor an African, you're tax exempted. You see that kind of irony. That if you have, if for example, I say, for me, and the difference is that I have a citizenship of another country, and I'm also a Kenyan citizen. So I'm kind of able to juggle and balance my way. But you see, the irony about it is that if you if you are supporting somebody or a project or something, or a volunteer in any project here in Africa, you're exempted from tax in your country, in Europe. So you will find many Europeans also coming here. They say, I'm a volunteer with an NGO in Kibera. Is using that to exempt themselves from paying tax. And also some of them are here, I'm working, so I'm doing this. But they're here just because also they're also trying to survive the same way we are surviving when we are going there. So it's a bit, and this is what I'm saying, that this is a global village. And as a global village, is that we'll find that what happens in Europe also happens here, but we have put it with another image that it is so beautiful. And I'll tell you for a fact is that I owned things that when people would normally say, if you go to Europe, life is easy. I'll tell you my story. It's very shocking that the first 1 month, I had a loan of almost 8 million Kenya shillings. Why? I didn't apply. I was getting it for free. I was calling. I used to get calls. Almost every Friday.
From where?
You just got here mobile money the other day. I used to get mobile. Someone just calls you from nowhere on Friday, gets your number, calls you, asks you, would you like 4,000 euros?
What?
And you didn't apply.
Okay. And you just say yes.
And that money comes within a few minutes, it's in your bank. But you have to pay it. You realize within a month, you've taken money from different sources. Then you need to pay. So your card is stopped. Your address is screened. And all this money you are sending to diaspora. And that's one of the biggest challenge, that you send monies, and I've seen many Kenyans who have gone abroad complaining that it's my relative in Kenya who has swindled me.
Yes.
Or my brother in Kenya has swindled me. So until you're paying a loan. So some of those challenges are there. So it's sometimes a bit heartening for people to go out there, struggle, and then people who are here do not understand because they've painted that rosy picture. And I realize that the fund avoid the money, the money loans, the mobile loans that come into like phone calls, collecting them. Because everything there is plastic. You know, it's like you get a card. If there's a student, you'll get some loans that are very, I mean, you feel like they're really kind of, tempting. But then you'll have to pay at the end of the day. So many guys want to buy a car. You buy a second-hand car. You feel like, in Kenya I didn't have a car. So here you have a car. You're going out with your friends.
And of course, if we see you posting those things on your Instagram and WhatsApp, we know you have money.
Absolutely. But you see, at the end of the day, when you start paying, it affects your education. That's why many people drop from school. Because then they have to go and work extra hard to pay those loans. You see? So you'll find somebody is like, you can't spend time in school, you cannot do whatever you're doing because you took the loans and you need to go out there and start now working very hard. And I've many friends who went to Europe because of education, but within 8 to 6 months, they're either working. So schooling is aside because they need also to make that money that they borrowed, and they also need to support other maybe siblings. So many people go there for many reasons, and one of that's a bit discouraging.
I'll read a comment from a few Kenyans on the same issue who says, me too napitia shida mingi hapa Urusi. People are antisocial, they sit alone, especially here. There's language barrier. I did my first degree in education science. I just want to finish my master's and PhD and come back home. That's what you mentioned, that if you tell someone to go, they'll... And then this person goes ahead to say, alafu watu wanafikiri in Europe, there is a bed of roses. My friends, I love Africa and I can attest, Africa is the best continent with many opportunities and social people. Despite, she says, hata saizi sioni hizo miaka 5 zikiisha ndo nirudi home. So she says, sina job sai na friends wa home wanani text sometimes niwatumie pesa. So sina jibu la kuwapa na baki tu nimewa blue tick. All I need is education, then I go back home. So this is someone who's...
Yeah, you should tell them he's hustling. You know, that's... you should tell them he's hustling. Because the fact of the matter is, I'll tell you, I mean, it's quite... I was very fortunate because I finished my schooling and quickly started writing for a newspaper. And then started writing for a newspaper, then went from one newspaper to the other, traveled out of Europe, back in Asia, in Middle East, and back to Europe, Africa, back to Europe. And that's a different story. But most of the people, I will tell you for sure, is that they struggle even to put a meal on the table. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Many people struggle even to put a meal on the fact. And the reason why I say Africans should be stopped to go to Europe, because they really struggle to get even money. But have you ever seen Kenyans coming from the diaspora just for a month? They live like sailors. They're in every club here in town.
Kempinski is where
they are flashing money with every hot lady in the city. But the moment they take the next flight back to Europe, they start their suffering at the plane.
Yeah.
The moment they board from Nairobi, someone doesn't know what he will eat when he lands in Europe. He has not paid his house. He's going to, to stay with friends.
You need to get a cab.
But he has come here and created an impression that he's come from Europe, he's come from the US, he's come from wherever, and he's doing extremely well because he's spending too much money, he's flashing money, he's hiring nice cars, throwing a party, and going back to suffer. So I think these are things that maybe people do not open. And then you see, these are the people who are saying they do it wrong because they give an impression to young Kenyans, young ones, that I want to be like Evans.
Yeah.
That when I grow up, and when I want to go to Europe, I want to go to Europe, I'll go to the US, and when I come back for holiday, watu watajua nimefika. People will know I've arrived. So I think that's the misconception. That's the misconception.
But also, Evans, I feel like there's also that pressure at the same time, because I don't know whether I should call it societal expectations and someone who's now living in the diaspora wanting to now meet up to those expectations. Because if I live right now and probably they've done a harambe for me to be able to even afford that money for the flight and probably have get even to process the visa and the medical and all that, it's a lot of money, right? So if you have family and friends who've done like a harambe, contributed, they've done a fundraising to enable you to be able to now go abroad, and then when you get there, it's these cleaning jobs that are available, it's the shop attendant jobs that are available, and now you're really like living from hand to mouth. But now the people back here at home are expecting that as long as you left the country and you went abroad, you now have to be sending money weekly, you have to like buy them phones and good clothes and always just be, financially ready to send.
I think that's the misconception I'm talking about. I think when you go, even if people raised money, I think you've heard the stories of Kina Obama's dad. People raised money for you to go back, to go to Europe, study. If you go to Europe in pursuit of education, and people have raised money to take you for academic purpose, go complete your education and strike a balance. If you don't have opportunities there, and you can get opportunities back home, come back home. That's the simplest thing I could advise somebody.
Yeah.
Come back home. And if you're sitting there and you're hustling, you're struggling, let your people know you're struggling. Let them know that you're not even able to pay your rent.
Yeah.
Let them know that you cannot able to buy a meal for yourself. I mean, it's so unfair even to yourself to create an expectation that you're doing well, yet you're not doing well.
Yeah.
And I've seen also the challenge that has been happening when, for example, a Kenyan or an African from different countries, you lose a friend in Europe and they have to be brought back home. You realize at the end of the day, it's not easy,
It's not.
even for somebody to be
Yeah.
brought back home, and because first, that's not where you belong, and people have to now, like friends, we need to fundraise, we need to take this person back to Kenya.
And
His parents do not
transporting
have
is
the
very
money,
expensive, yeah.
the parents cannot afford, so you start looking for the government. I think it's important also, I think it's important for me to point out this way, is that most Kenyans who are in abroad, and most people who have gone to abroad, I think it's critical for you, first of all, to be able to understand and give correct information about yourself. You see, one of the things I'm telling you is that people lie a lot about who they are and why they are going to where they are going. A lot of, and I happen to work as working as a journalist even with for example, the Finnish government in that context. I would even come across people who have given false information just to get themselves
A job.
not a job, to get themselves out of the country. And the moment you reach there, you realize whatever you gave, the information you gave is not correct. Then even if anything happens to you, nobody can trace you.
Yeah.
Nobody can find you. So the embassies do not have, and this one thing I think in your show, and from this show, I think it's important to point out that people going out of the country, please make sure you register with embassies.
Yes.
Let the embassy know you're in this country, whether you're in the UK, whether you're in Finland, whether you're in Germany. Let the embassy know you're in Germany, you're in Finland, so and so is there, so they can account for you.
Yeah.
The other thing is that please give correct information. 3, if you finish what you are doing, whether you want to have a job, go through the proper ways of getting it's called the work permits, so that you can be able to work. Opportunities are there, but you'll find a lot of people, 90, almost 70% of people are either living there illegally, their times have expired, they're struggling, they're making their ends live. Others have just like, now, I have no job, I have finished education, I have no money, I need to look for marriage. And people use now the married card, the married card as also a socioeconomic activity.
Wow. What?
They look at it as a socioeconomic activity. You see, now at the end of the day, they look at marriage as something that can make me make money. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you get education and you're not able to get a job, they look at it like, if I get married to a British, and I'll tell you something shocking.
Yeah.
In January last year, Finland, for example, passed a law that if you are a fiancé to a Finnish national,
Yes.
you're eligible to work and live in Finland. Not married,
Yeah.
if you are dating.
Oh.
What does that open? It means if you're dating a Finnish, if you're just dating a Finnish without being married, you're eligible to move and stay with him and to work.
Yeah.
So does that not make somebody look at it like a socioeconomic activity?
Yeah.
So some people decide that I am going here because of this and this and this. And as I say, multiculturalism, societies are so close, they're not open. And then you realize at the end of the day, whatever you decided to do does not work. But I encourage a lot of young people, and I encourage a lot of people, is that home sweet home. I think the fact that I have true citizenship, it doesn't give me the license, or it doesn't give me the privilege to feel that I don't belong here. I think this is where I belong. This is home. It is where I know, in terms of my cultural connection, Europe is a place where you feel like it's not even a second home. It's just an opportunity for you to be able to travel out of the country, because you have to a place to go. Where am I going out? I'm going out because I'm going to a certain point. Yeah. But don't go out there just you want to go to impress friends, to impress family. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you were so lucky that as soon as you were done with your education, you got a job and started working. If we are to compare, maybe in terms of the quality of education versus in Kenya versus in Europe, I feel like a lot of people who've studied abroad can easily get jobs back into the country. I don't know if that is something that you can agree with.
Can I tell you what I hate most? I hate the Kenyan education system. It's dysfunctional. If you compare the system in Finland, I'll give you an example. That's the best system in the world. Yeah. Go and Google it.
Okay, I have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, it's the best system in the world. I think education should be about trying to give people skills and trying to ensure that they specialize in those skills. Yeah. In Finland, they don't believe in teaching people about history. History will be told. Here you have history. You put people to learn and get education in skilled studies, not things like history. Yes. History will take you nowhere. Yeah. Whether you know when Kenya got independence, it will never help you. But go and do a course in science, computers. That's better. Yeah.
Okay. So as we wrap up, maybe you can just tell us what can we learn from Europe or from the many countries that you have been to abroad. What can we learn from them? Maybe some of the do's and don'ts.
I think the most critical thing is for a country or a nation to have a strong social fabric. I think we have a very complete loose social fabric. I think the European social fabric is that fabric that supports, that's what I was saying. You cannot know a poor European in his country and a rich European, because even if they don't have a meal, they can be able to know how the government can support, subsidize in terms of food stamps and stuff. I think the social fabric in Kenya is completely conflicted, and in the sense that we don't identify as like the so-called Ubuntu or Umoja. We don't identify ourselves that way. So I think one of the things we need to learn is how we are able to support each other, and that's the purpose of the embassies. Yes. I think also we have an embassy, our diplomatic agenda is completely collapsed, because what are embassies for? 90% of Kenyans who go out of the country do not even sometimes know whether that country where they are, there's an embassy, because they have never seen the ambassador. So there's that complete disconnection about we, Kenya, entrenching our values in those particular countries where we go. And I think we need to start from here. We pressurize the government here that we are able to ensure that the ambassador of Kenya in the UK accounts for every Kenyan and able to do activities that will bring us, like cultural activities that bring Kenyans to identify, so that we can be able to be ambassadors of our own country in those countries and not identifying ourselves as white. You talked about accent. I don't want to go to Europe or to India and come back with an Indian accent or come back with a Finnish accent.
That will be interesting to see.
yet I can identify with my culture, because the government is supporting to enhance not only trade but also cultural integration. Those are some of the things I think we can able to learn and do as Kenyans.
Okay. Okay, I'm being told that my time is up. I don't know whether we agree that staying abroad humbles you. Does it?
In a way it does, but it also exposes me to some extent. So nowadays I'm just a guy who looks at things and I'm just at school.
All right, that's Evans Wafula, communications consultant. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for your viewership. My name is Rachel Anyango. Have a good night.
We value your feedback and welcome your complaints about our programming and operations. Feel free to get in touch with us through 0700 893 542 or send us an email to views@look-up.tv. We can't wait to hear from you.
You're watching Look Up TV.